Welcome to 9wax TV, welcome to Porscheplatz, back here again, but today it's nothing to do with cars. We're going to be going inside the museum, specifically to the Porsche Archive department. Now I've wanted to take a look around the Porsche Archive for at least the 12 years I've been editor of Total 911 magazine. What interests me just as much as the cars are the people behind them, the designers, the engineers, the board, everyone and everything that goes into these fantastic sports cars that we all know and love. And much of that history is stored just above the museum there in the archive. So we're going to go in, we're going to speak to Frank Jung, who's going to show us around the archive and learn a little bit more about this fantastic company and the sports cars it produces. Let's go and take a look at some Porsche history.
Enter the impressive Porsche Museum and your eyes will naturally be drawn to the 95 cars on display at any one time. However, above the lobby, and hidden in plain sight, is the start of the illustrious archive facility, the keeper of stories to the sports cars in the main museum. Not open to the public, today the museum team is allowing 9wax TV inside the archive facility, which means I and you are about to see some Porsche history like never before. We begin in the library, which holds some of the 4,500 books specialising in Porsche and the history and culture around the brand. Some of the work you might even recognise. So as well as having a lot of original Porsche material here at the archive, we've also got an array of Porsche enthusiast magazines from around the world, including Total 911, which is all archived according to the year. So this was a couple of years ago. And I have to say, it's pretty cool to have your own mugshot in the archive facility at the museum. Wicked. Very cool. The library is just the start. The facility overall is a 1,000 square metre space with 3.5 kilometres of files, 5 million photos and slides, and 30,000 small exhibits. Frank Jung, head of Porsche Archive, takes us deeper into the labyrinthine facility, full of artefacts which sew Porsche's complete history together, which are all kept in closed storage rooms with climate control. First up for us, some scaled wind tunnel models of both road and race cars, as well as prototypes including the Type 695 of 1961, predecessor of what ultimately would become the 911. Frank showed us original notes from the earliest Porsche sports cars of 1948, plus diagrams and drawings of early Porsche cars from the 1950s. These handwritten artefacts reside alongside more than 3,000 hours of original video, copies of which have been digitised. And then there's the nuanced stuff like the operating manual for a 911 GT1 road car, for example, or the original sketch of the first ever Porsche crest from 1952. Ever wondered how people chose their 911's exterior colour back in 1975 and without an online configurator? Another brilliant artefact took us back 50 years to find out. We also found the mid-50s 356 exterior and interior spec, which inspired the 992 Target Heritage Edition more than 60 years later, in between test reports for the 911R and 908. Oh, and a casual Le Mans 24-hour trophy from 2017. As a 996 enthusiast, I asked Frank if he had any content relating to the 5th generation 911 and was amazed to see original photography from press launches of the time, as well as early colour and trim options, plus a very early wind tunnel model finished in, would you believe it, green. Looks like those early designers had great taste. This admittedly is only a snapshot into the archive facility. We take you even deeper with a forthcoming print feature in our soon-to-launch 9wax magazine. But for now, let's have a conversation with Frank, who can divulge a few more secrets behind this outstanding facility safeguarding Porsche history.
What a facility!
Yeah, quite nice, huh? Here we are in Zuffenhausen at the heart of Porsche, and if we would cut it down to just one sentence, here at the archives, this is the memory of Porsche.
Could you, we spoke about it off camera, but would you mind running through some of the numbers that you said in terms of like the size of the archive, the paperwork that you have here? There's It's massive.
Yeah, the archive itself, we're stocking material on roughly about 1,000 square meters, 3.5 kilometers of documents, 4,500 books, 30,000 up to 30,000 small exhibits, up to 3,000 hours of videos, and roughly about 5 million pictures and slides. But we didn't count them last week.
Okay, yeah, and that's with 9 full-time staff, you were saying?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Yeah, we're in total we're 9 people working here, plus some students that are of great help for us. And we roughly get 6,000 inquiries per year from parties all over the world.
Okay, so that's Porsche dealers, customers as well, and you also mentioned like other departments within
Yes.
the company at Porsche. How do you decide then which requests to listen to and is worthy of your time with only 9 staff?
That's a good question. Of course, as we are working in the press department, requests from journalists are quite of importance for us. In some cases, private requests we unfortunately are not able to answer due to several reasons. Yeah, there are other ways to get information, like technical information about their cars, and we don't want to make up a second or wait for them to get the material, the information, because meanwhile the information is a value on its own, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end it's always a daily decision, to work on this project or for this request. If it's from the Porsche family, then we're a little bit faster than from anyone else.
I can very well imagine, and entirely understandable. I, as an enthusiast, I look at the role that you and your team play as your kind of guardians of Porsche history. It's a hell of a responsibility. Do you feel that?
Yeah, it's a hell of fun too. Yeah, so we're doing this with much fun and with much emotion, but not just for fun. Yeah, so as we are working for the manufacturer, as we're working for the factory, we have to be very precise in a couple of matters. But it's a huge amount of stuff to work with and for.
You mentioned obviously that this is not open to the general public. How difficult is it to protect all of these documents and because if they're out in the public domain, they can be like manipulated and everything else. So it's important to protect what you have, surely,
In the meantime, only the colleagues of the archive have access to those rooms, because here we stock our worthiest documents, and we got to be sure that no information we don't want to spread out, that nothing goes out uncontrolled. But in the meantime, we are also thinking of that nothing comes in uncontrolled.
Okay.
Because could be that someone puts in a piece of paper on a certain chassis number, and in 2 years they do an official request and ask, do you have any information about this? And we don't know that it's not from us or not original. And we say, and then we prove by this, we would prove the history of a car or a chassis number.
Yeah.
So we got to be aware not only of what is going out of the archive, but also what is coming into the archive.
Well, that is the big difference between you and the internet. The internet is like an evolving story that's a bit of myth and a tiny bit of fact in there. But again, you have to be the guardians of proper history, right?
Yes. Yeah, precision is of high importance. Of course, we do make mistakes as well, but if our ambition wouldn't be 100%, the result would be much lower.
Yeah,
So, we have to be very careful. We have to be very precise. Sometimes this is not the funniest piece in the game, but the earlier we are involved in a project or in something, the easier it is to work with journalists or with internal parties, and then the result is much easier to communicate.
Is it easier or harder to find information on a newer or later car? Because I guess if you go back 60 years, there might be less information, but there were less cars.
Yeah, less cars, so one could think it's easier to find information on one of those fewer cars, but it's not just within one book. So we have to dig in different sources, book here, there, and there, and put all those informations together. So it's more puzzle than with a much younger documentation. Yeah? And today we just press a button and then we have more or less everything about a production car and much more detailed.
Yeah.
But it's not that much fun to put all those informations together.
Yeah, of course. And Frank, I'm interested to know as well, like how, in terms of like day-to-day upkeep of this archive, you mentioned that some bits are being digitized, although it's great to still have the original. In what other ways are you safeguarding that Porsche history and maintaining this fantastic facility?
Today, what comes in digitized stays digital. Yeah. There was a time former colleagues printed out digitized information and then stored it away.
Okay, yeah.
That was the time you didn't know how the whole internet thing is going on, or the digitalization. But meanwhile, we try to digitize more and more, but we don't start at 1 and end at 1,000. We do it by purpose or by request, because otherwise we would start at 1 and would spend a lot of money till we are at 200, and then we get a request for 400, and this isn't digitized yet. So this is our strategy.
Yeah, so I guess as well, again, you mentioned there's a brilliant point off camera. So, you go right the way back to 1875 and the birth of Ferdinand Porsche, and you go even beyond the present day because you need the context of what's coming up. So aside from the fact that we're constantly moving through history, is the archive still expanding?
Still expanding, also in manual documents, because a lot of colleagues, they stock their material in their cupboards, in their wherever, in their offices, and when they get retired, then hopefully we are involved, and then we ask them, what do you got left, and then but this is it's not rising that much, but it's slowly rising, but we will reach a top spot within the next, 5 up to 10 years.
Okay.
And then analog material won't be, I don't think that we don't find that much more analog material, but of course the digital material, that is, for example, in the 50s, when a car came out, there was a German manual, and this, they made it once a year, or once every 2 years or something like that. And maybe they did it in German and English, And today they do it, 4 times a year, and they do it in German, in English, in
Chinese,
Italian, Chinese, and whatever, Spanish, So there as well, the amount of stuff is rising. We have to say, and this is an important role of us being an archivist, we have to decide what are we keeping and what are we not keeping. It's always a decision because we can't keep everything.
Of course, yes. How do you make that decision then, Frank?
It's a combination of thinking and luck. In some cases, we discuss with colleagues and we ask them, what do you think? Shall we keep this, or how many do we have to keep of this and that? And then we made a decision, a group decision, based on our best knowledge and our experience. And some of our colleagues are working since 25 years here at the archive, so they are quite experienced.
You mentioned a fantastic point earlier on about how tradition meets innovation at Porsche. It's very important, so like the Porsche DNA. Perhaps with reference again to production cars, you mentioned how you'd work with the likes of Porsche Exclusive manufacturer. To what degree do you guys work with Exclusive?
We are more and more involved in a defined process.
Okay.
So at the beginning of a project, like a market edition for a foreign market, or like last year the Centenaire edition for the French market, they involved us at the very beginning. So from the historical point of view, we gave an overview what was going on historical wise, and then together with the colleagues of Exclusive or the designers, we did the decision, okay, this or this would be the right thing to quote, and then it's their job to do. And then afterwards, we add the historical pictures, the stories, and then it's easy to communicate.
I'm really grateful that you showed me around some like 996 pieces and kind of artefacts today. Has there been more interest in the 996 from an archive point of view?
Yes. I think that's a normal and ongoing process.
Okay.
As soon as the one generation of, especially 911, is uh, is well after sought after, yeah, then the next generation comes into the focus, and especially the 996, we see a rising interest on the car market, and if it's on the car market, then we get more and more requests on that, and we see it also as well at the museum. So our colleagues from the museum, they can tell that. More and more cars like this, or the generations, are more and more in the focus.
Yeah.
So, whenever we do, like on Instagram, whenever we do a posting about the GT3, or I don't know, even a bit later, Carrera GT, this gets the most clicks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I guess you guys have to be alive to that and put out some information, but not all of it, right?
Yeah, you're going to be careful, but because if we're celebrating 25 years, then we might celebrate 50 years in 25 years, and we still need some old, fresh, new material to celebrate that.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, I've got one more kind of quirky question, really. So, is there anything, Frank, in your time that is a well-known myth that many people believe, and you guys in the archive could definitively say, actually, that's not correct?
This is a daily theme for us, yes. But we were talking about how the crest came up. Yeah, there's a story that Ferry Porsche and Max Hoffmann, that they did a drawing on the napkin. Let's put it that way. We don't have the napkin in our archive. So in some cases there's the story and there's the truth, or the thing we can prove. That doesn't mean the story is incorrect, but we don't have a proof that it's correct. So we assume it's not correct.
Yeah.
This is something on the ignition key on the left-hand side, for example.
So that is because that is a classic, actually. Yes. That is a classic. It's on the left for Le Mans. You can jump in, and that is, as you're saying, that's open to interpretation.
It's in a Porsche, even before Porsche was participating in Le Mans. As well, in our communication as in the museum, we tell both stories, and so the customer, the fan, can decide which story to believe in. And sometimes we just say it with a twinkle in the eye, and then we say, oh, maybe it's because of economic reasons that the wires are a little bit shorter, so that you don't have to spend that much money.
You can believe what you like, right?
Yes.
Frank, fantastic. I think you have the coolest job, and this is honestly the greatest privilege for me in coming and have a look around here. I love the cars, but like, this is real history that you've kind of let me take a look at today. So I'm really grateful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we are really thankful working here, but also the outside view is always different to the inside view, but it's a lot of fun to work. And we were looking at some pieces, artifacts here, and working that close at the origin of a brand is a real privilege. Yes.
Amazing. Well, yeah, the privilege was mine today. So thank you very much.
There we are then. What a fascinating chat that was with Frank. A real privilege, as I said, to walk around and have a look inside that corporate archive. I've wanted to get in there for such a long time, as I said, and it certainly didn't disappoint. Really, Frank and his team at the archive facility are guardians of Porsche history. And there's real responsibility with that. It's not to be underestimated. I could have spent days in there, if I'm honest with you. An absolutely brilliant experience, well worth it. And I hope you enjoyed taking a bit of a look behind the scenes there at a robust department within this fantastic brand and manufacturer that plays such an important role and a real crucial part to allow us to fully understand the brand and the manufacturing, the cars and the people that made them, which ultimately helps us enjoy the product and appreciate the product even more. Thanks to Frank, to Laura, to the whole PR team here at the museum for allowing such a fantastic experience and taking you behind the scenes. So from Porscheplatz, we'll see you soon.